Dale viento, vienen llegando, que vienen matando. Cántale bosque, hacete piedra, que dicen vida y que siembran muerte. Cántale bosque, jaiba cangrejo, ermitaño, violinista y marinero. Hacete aire, que llueve escoria. Canta yigüirro, verde los tijos, que dicen vida y que siembran muerte. Jaguar nocturno, dientes de luna, sopla en el viento la voz de alerta, que viene el monstruo, boca de pala, cuerpo amarillo, ruedas de pata, que viene el monstruo, boca de pala, cuerpo amarillo, ruedas de pata.
Okay, let's start with this new Sustainable Sunday. Welcome to all. And as you heard from the music, we have guests from Latin America. Now we are going to present our guest. But before that, Moran, I give the floor to you to also introduce the session.
Welcome everyone to our next Sustainable Sundays and our first Sustainable Sundays since Earth Day. We hope everyone had a very impactful, busy Earth Day. There were lots and lots of events going on, and it is our great honor to have today Erick Brenes with us from Costa Rica. Welcome to Sustainable Sundays. It's such an honor to have you here. Looking forward to this session.
Thank you.
Hi, Eric. Eric, welcome. So, Eric, now I will give the floor to you to introduce yourself and also to talk a very interesting topic because you have to know, we know Eric from like a very nice conference. I will explain also a little bit of context. We were talking about energy communities with like a common friend. And properly regarding communities, I was very interested on the work that Eric is doing with indigenous communities. And he told about something that he called alternative development. And suddenly it catch my attention and I said, I want you to a Sustainable Sunday. I want to explain a little bit more about it. And so, Eric, the floor to you to introduce yourself and explain a little bit about this alternative development.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for the welcome. I'm very happy to be here, and most of it that you are recording and we can share it with other people in the future. I have a very interesting, the alternatives to development that I come across with is the result of my experience. And my experience with development started maybe 20 years ago here in Latin America, mainly in Mesoamerica. I don't like to make I don't like to call Central America because Central America is a political division, and I like to call it Mesoamerica, which is more an indigenous and environmental base and knowledge. So in Mesoamerica, I came back to the region. I did my master's in Japan, and then I started working as a consultant in a company in Germany. Then I came back to the region and start working for a very small NGO that works works with community currencies, and that makes me go to very different communities, rural, especially rural communities in Guatemala, in Honduras, also in Nicaragua, in Costa Rica, of course. And then after some times of very successful projects, some of them even got some reward, some recognitions from the government of Netherlands. I went to do the same in Honduras, in Colombia, Ecuador, and even in Venezuela back then. And when I was there, when I was living, especially in Colombia, I was talking about respecting the the institutional framework of Colombia in order to design a project for indigenous people in the south of Colombia. And these people became very angry at me because I was respecting the institutional framework of the government in Bogota. And they say, this is the government of Bogota. We have a very different government. And then I start reading a lot and I realized that within Colombia, you have very small states governed by the Aboriginal people. And I start realizing that they have a very, very, very different perspective. In philosophy, we call that epistemological categories. The epistemological categories are the building blocks of knowledge. And based on this knowledge, they interpret, read, understand the world in a very different way. So I was working with them. Well, I would say I was learning from them and designing projects on community currencies for them. And then I remember that a very old man, maybe very old for Aboriginal leader, around his 70s, he asked me a question that it took me around 8 years and a PhD thesis to answer. Let me rephrase the question because I have the word in Spanish, but more or less he asked Eric, is globalization a cultural process that has within implicit an economic process that you call capitalism, or is globalization an economic process that has within itself a cultural process? Oh my God, what a question! And one of the things I remember the most is that he didn't even finish high school, the school. So it was very funny because I was coming from Mesoamerica with designing project that even got awards and everything, and I have my master's from Japan and all this stuff. And he made a question that I was not able to answer. So I started reading and reading and reading, and I made a proposal, a PhD proposal based on that. And the proposal was accepted in the University of Calabria in the south of Italy. And I stayed there for around three years, the last 2 years with my family. And of course, I start questioning the hegemonic system from the alternative, which is social system. That's why I end up in the University of Calabria, which is a lighthouse of social theory, But I arrived there with a decolonized perspective, So I was not able to graduate because my PhD proposal didn't fulfill all the Western style social theory. So I end up graduating in the university in Mexico from my PhD, because the Mexicans were way more open to the decolonization, So based on that, that's more or less my confrontation, my epistemological confrontation to what is development, what is sustainability, So if you look at the history of or at least the Western style, the Western history, which is the one that we learn in the Western style schools all over the world, every time when I say we society, global society, when we have a very pressing problem like the one we have right now, like the environmental problem we are facing, like the social problem we are facing, like the economic problem we are facing, in the history of humankind, when we had a really hard and pressing problem, we turn to science, and science help us to look forward for possible solutions. And the problem right now is that science, as the way we know, is just Western science. positive Newtonian Western science, you know. And this is not, I mean, the critic, you have to follow the critic, because I am not saying that this science is not right. What I'm saying, or what I'm trying to say, is that this science is not complete. We are lacking all sorts of science, all the empirical science, all the empirical knowledge that Aboriginal people have developed in 2, 3, 4, 5, 7,000 years of knowledge in a territory, and they develop their own science. Of course, it's not properly documented in the Western style science, but it's science after all. It's empirical science that have allowed them to survive on the territory for 5 or 7,000 years, and not considering this kind of knowledge, empirical territorial knowledge, has made the sustainable theoretical, but most of all methodological approach incomplete. This is my personal opinion, and this is the conclusions of my PhD thesis. It has made it incomplete. So if you start questioning what sustainability is, from the decolonize, I use 3 theories to questioning sustainability. The first and the most important one, of course, is decolonization. The other one is systemic theory, and the other one is complex theory, you know, Edgar Morin. So I use these 3 to analyze. But one of the first things I realize is that sustainability, the way sustainability is a structure from the Western style science, is based on economics. In Western cultures, economic culture, Western cultures are econocentric. The main thinking is economic sense, while in most of the original people I have based on, is based on the complementarities of all the different systems, you know, where human beings are just another part of it. So it's very, from that perspective, as I told you, I was not able to graduate from the University of Calabria because of that, because I was not given praise to the Marx theory, you know. But I came back to Mesoamerica, and I started, you know, like itching my hand. How can I demonstrate this? And then I realized that I was hired. I usually work as an independent consultant and researcher. I was hired by FAO, the Agricultural and Food Organization, to systematize a 10-year project in the oh my God, how you say that in English? In the Secano. The Secano is the dry land of the Mesoamerica. It's shared by 3 countries: El Salvador, Nicaragua, El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. The land over there is very dry, and because of climate degradation, it was getting drier, and it was a 10-year, 20 years, 30 years food crisis over there. And FAO try all sorts of Western science initiatives, and none of them worked. And just 2 worked. And I was hired to systematize this in a paper. And one was an indigenous people, an indigenous people strategy or methodology called Kesunwan. Now I'm talking out of my memory, so I might mix the names. These indigenous people was known Kesunwal, indigenous people from the south of Guatemala, Maya people. One of the Maya people, because Maya people is there's 5 or 7 different families. And the other one was empirical knowledge in the hands of peasants. and Kesundrur, something like that is the name of the methodology, Kesundrur. And those empirical knowledge were the only ones able not only to stop degradation, but to increase food productivity in about 20%. So that was my demonstration, you know. So I kind of rewrote my PhD thesis. I sent it to a research center in Mexico, and of course it was approved. So, and after that, I decided to, and I said, oh my God, we have, you know, like every Aboriginal people all over the world. I know that the reality in Latin America because I live here, you know, and when you read the Latin American history from the indigenous perspective, the first thing you stop doing is calling it Latin America and you start calling it Abya Yala. So when I study all the different original peoples in Abya Yala, I realized that we have around 700 indigenous people. And I said, oh my God, each one of these 700 peoples have the seed, the foundational seed to create more knowledge, a different one from the Western style knowledge, and this might complement. We have to think in a comprehensive way. This is not this kind of knowledge of science is not competing. We must complement it and make it more richer. And this is what I call sustainability, the ability to make the actual theory richer, because the actual theory is Western style. And since it is Western style, it's econocentric. And the way to demonstrate that it is econocentric is that sustainability involves environment because it has an economic impact, not because it secures our long term. That's more or less my introduction. I open the floor and please let's have a discussion.
Yes, thank you very much. I get a lot of hints. You will know because then I have to tell a story. But first of all, I will give the floor to Moran.
Wow, for me, that's first of all, my mind is blown in multiple directions. I'm already learning words that I'm not familiar with and taking notes because I want to understand them and look them up. And so I'm sure anyone who's watching, I hope anyone who's watching is also learning new things already. But also I love the multilateral approach that you're taking, the way that you're connecting for us, like a different perspective. And more than anything, it's the systemic approach that you're talking about. And the different angles of looking at the economical or sustainable, or whether we're being ecological, that's something that I too, in my own kind of personal projects that I've been doing for the last 12 or so years, I've looked at what does sustainability mean? It's the ability to sustain ourselves, but we're all part of this. As you said, we're just a small part of it. I love that you said that, because wouldn't it be wonderful if we could wake up tomorrow morning and everybody understood that we're all part of this system? And so how the system is built and how we use it and what we bring in as humanity on Earth takes into account and factors in our impact, the back and forth, the way we're using resources or exchanging resources between us. And I think this is a big part of even what you're saying with how we refer to, whether it's Latin America, Mesoamerica. This is terminology that's actually can make us more and more precise and more harmoniously living together, because you said the word respect. And I think for me, at least, this really, if we all took the same understanding of the word respect, we would respect the nature from which we survive, each other, and the space that we have, and how we exchange and live together in one another. And I wonder what we can do to raise more awareness on this, which is why I'm super grateful for this conversation. And as you said, we're recording it, so afterwards we can pass it on more. And it's fascinating. So after having said all this, could you go a little bit more into the different theories that you mentioned, whether it was the complex or the systemic and the decolonization, and how that kind of brought you to where you are today in the social theory of living together? Because I love the ecological, economical, while we're thinking of sustainability.
Yes, wonderful. I think I could speak for hours about that, and sometimes it's kind of difficult to narrow down in like small details. But one of the first thing I realized that if you look to sustainability from the United Nations perspective, the concept, not only the theoretical framework, but the methodological framework that United Nations is developing to bring forward the concept of sustainability started from the 1992 Rio conference, you know, and from there sustainability started developing, and then now we have Millennium Development Goals. We have now the Sustainable Goals, but if you look, everything started from the concentric. You might remember the circle of the economic system, the circle of the environmental system, and the circle from the social system. And sustainability was the point where the three circles met. Do you remember that?
100%.
When you look at that graphical representation from a systemic point of view, you realize that economic circle depend on a bigger one, which is the social circle, you know. And this is like that in the capitalistic economy and in the social economy, in both. You know, the economic depends on the social. If you don't have social if you don't have a social settings, what kind of economy will you develop? None.
Of course, right.
You know, and the two of them depend on a bigger system that we call biosphere. So
Brilliant. True.
Yeah, so we might develop the perfect economic theory that aligns with the social theory, but if it goes against the biggest system, then it's not sustainable. And
sounds familiar.
Yeah, so that's the perspective from the systemic way of thinking. But from the complex way of thinking, let's just imagine we don't question the three circles, you know. I have a simple slides where I take all I take the three circles, and then I make lines vertically and horizontally. And then vertically, I say we have instruments, we have politics, we have technology. So, you know, all of this is transversal to the sustainability theory, you know, transversal. But I made it from top to down, vertically. But then I made it even more complex, because then you have a global scale, you have a regional scale, a national scale, and then you have a local scale. That's why climate, that's why climate challenges are such a headache from the political perspective, because at the local and national level, no one even noticed the difference, you know. But then on the global scale, you realize we are suffering from climate changes, you know. So the challenges are very different according to the levels where you are. It's very complex. It's very complex. It's not as simple as that. That's the second theory. And then the third one, I love it. It's my my sweetheart, and I usually give conference on that. Last time I gave it, there's a in Ecuador. There was, because I know it's no longer there, a pluriversity. We don't call they don't call it any longer university because it's a universal science, you know, universal knowledge. They call it pluriversities, you know, knowledge that is wider. And last time I give, I have a 1 week seminar on how to decolonize science. And last time I gave a speech on this, the people in Ecuador was really amazed. Just a second to show you this book over here. I'm sorry, it's in Spanish. Los verdaderos hombres, the real men. Is really amazing. Wow. Because if you want to decolonize science, you have to start by your first instrument that creates science, which is the first instrument which you use to create science. I'm asking you, Domenico.
I don't know, the
brain.
Here. What is your first instrument to create science, Antonella?
Pencil.
It's
good. This is good.
The first instrument that you use to create science is your language.
Ooh.
And the people who is deformed, listen to the word, deformed by the system, especially Latin-based languages, Spanish, French, Italian, to a certain extent, English and German. English and German are not Latin-based, but they use Latin structures. Those languages are incredible self-centered.
Yeah.
And because the language is self-centered, you develop science out of the self. Under cogito ergo sum. I first think and then I am.
Wow.
These people do not have the first noun. They don't have I. They just have we.
Wow.
So they build and understand the world from the we. They don't understand what it means to be I, just we. It's really,
that makes so much sense.
Yes. And that's, you know, that's decolonizing science, because the first thing, when you develop a science out of the I, you develop a self-centered science.
Yeah.
Cogito ergo sum, you know? Okay, then what happens when the science keep on developing and developing and developing and developing with the self-centered style? You have the problems that biology had in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s of the last centuries, because biologists used to go to the rainforest. They used to come here to the rainforest in Costa Rica. They measure a square mile and start trying to understand all the relations in that square mile between plants, between different animals, insects, and they were not able to understand anything. Biology was running short, so they have to create another science that right now we call it ecology. Okay.
Amazing.
That kind of quantum leap that biology did is the quantum leap we have to do with economic theory.
Whoa.
Fantastic. I'm really amazed. Really, I didn't expect. And I was saying that I have funny facts also to remind, in which I try to also relation the discussion, because you see today I have another like background than usual. This is just to understand, and surely for the one that has listened, we did not plan that. This is like a town from Calabria, which I'm from, where my roots
Mm.
are from, no? Where my local knowledge is from. And surely I can say, Eric, if I were there during your PhD, I will not like refuse your thesis, because I totally agree with your points. Also because, and now I connect to the global level. I'll tell you another fun fact. Um, when I was in COP 2024, I was very astonished, because I think that you will remember that discussion related to accept or just no, what was the like the definition? Yes, but the parties, just to understand, were quarreling to like accept or notify the special report on 1.5 degrees that was the best available science, no? And on that point, there was like no agreement for 1 week on that. And also after, there was a week agreement and so on. But what they agree in a way, maybe also don't thinking too much, was the local indigenous knowledge platform into the substance that is the scientific body. And I remember that I was making kind of report of the pre-COP, on the COP and so on the negotiation. And I was saying that I was happy because in a way, indigenous knowledge as like kind of revenge against the normal science. And finally, like it was an opportunity to understand that science and local knowledge can be like complementary, as you say. And I totally agree. And just reconnecting to the local, one funny fact also relating the local knowledge is that my uncle, that my old uncle that is from Calabria properly, and he's a farmer. And once he said, we were discussing about flourishing, about bees and so on. Only not normally without, we were not on the topic, but he said, yes, but bees are not same as usual. We saw that there are many. And I asked him, but how do you measure that there are less than before? Yes, I saw the flowers. I understand. I kind of sense that in from certain things. So it was not scientific, but you realize a very scientific like threats, that is climate change and biodiversity loss. So yeah,
Empirical knowledge.
yeah, yeah, total local knowledge. And I was totally like confirm your point, and that's why I wanted also you to be here. Yeah, but okay, let's go into a question. I want to ask you, you are now explain this concept and so on. You can also, and I asked you to do that, to show this kind of framework that you design. You say that there was like kind of a matrix or something that could be, I think, very useful to understand the concept. But how can you apply this, for example, in project or in local development actions?
Yes, that's a very good question. And let me just, there's a final idea I would like to share, maybe a bit more ahead about about why we cannot go out of this trap we are. But just to answer this, just to answer your question, one of the first thing you have to, when you are working in the local development, you have to approach with a strong sense of humility. That's the first thing you have to do, and learn and arrive at, first and foremost, to learn. to learn the main social, environmental, and economic relations on site, and how they are affecting each other, and how you might be suggesting to rearrange those relations in order to create a certain type of development that you might bring from where you are from, and see and try to guess if this is what they are looking for, you know. Because development in the Western style sense is econocentric. And I have learned that, at least in Mesoamerica, development is understood in a very social sense. You know, this is not underestimating the economic part, but people is more consciously aware of his reality than in other places I've been. I know I haven't had the opportunity to travel extensively in Africa, but I'm sure in Africa, the socially context, or the socially understanding of themselves, it must be very strong, at least stronger than in Western style communities. I had the opportunity to live and work and study 4 years in Japan, and I realized a very strong sense of community the Japanese have, you know. And every time I read about politics, Chinese politics, I can indeed see the social perspective. But what I see the most is the Confucianism rather than the Marxism. So it's just another way of another perspective, you know, which we don't usually which we don't usually understand. Let me just give you a very small anecdote I had in the mountains in Colombia. I went to design a project with Aboriginal people in the mountains of Colombia, and then of course we had to ask for permission first. And then the elders asked me, "What are you going to do?" And then I kind of explained the matrix, the project matrix, you know. These are the objectives, these are the activities, you know, more or less I try to, and the elder asked me, you know, someone that didn't even finish high school, he asked me, "So what are the results?" And then we are expecting these results. So he says, okay, so what you are bringing is a system of what's the name? The name in English would be, what you are bringing is a system to invent the future. I am so very sorry, but we have our own. We don't need yours. So
Yeah.
so it was Akumala Akumayapa. I remember the names in the original language. Akumala Akumayapa is like inventing the future. More or less the translation into Spanish and then into English. That's more or less. So one of the things I learned the very most, Domenico, is to be humble. To be humble. And you know, I've seen PhD people that have canceled a conference because they are not addressed as PhDs. So that's, you know, that's horrible. You know, that's.
Yeah, I very got your point, and then I want to add also another thing, but give the floors to Moran if surely I think she
No,
has other.
Dome, go. It's okay. Go, Dome. I'll go right after you. And then I'm sure there's other people who might have something as well.
Yeah, no, I want to point out one thing. First of all, I find also another thing to you. Then I'll share also another kind of scheme because you trick me now, and I want to take it out. This was like also a publication that I did studying the role of ICT for participation. During my PhD, I did also a course on like cooperation and development. And on that, I decided to treat the theme of how to involve the local communities through ICTs. And one funny fact that also I found maybe is also something that I will ask to you to understand, that in a way, if they are used in a participatory way, they can also help to like translate the local knowledge in some, I don't know, format or device or something that can be also transmittable. But okay, that was a thesis that I found in literature. Maybe you can tell me also your opinion. But the other thing is this matrix that you said something that it reminds, and that's why I reprise that. This I'll try also to make the whole presentation so it's more clear. So this is kind of the comparison between sustainable development as usually is explained in university, like the three dimension, social, economical, that are intertwined and blah, blah, blah. Intersectional model, this one, with the concentric participatory model. And as you can see, you have, first of all, the environment that takes all. Second of all, the social dimension that takes all. Then the economy that intertwines with the democracy and participation. And I bring that for my study and trying to say that sustainability is not just that three dimension, but it takes also social and participatory dimension. Yeah, I want to ask you something about that.
Yes, wonderful, wonderful. Let me just, I told you a couple of minutes ago that there's a last idea I would like to share with you. And this might connect directly with what you just show us. You know, when the first Europeans came to Abya Yala, to what we know as America or Latin America, they came to the land, and they saw, and the first thing they did, which is something natural, they start to interpret and understand the territory based on their own territory. You know, if you see the main economic categories of economic theory in Western tradition, usually you are allowed to gain possession on a property as long as you make a good use of it. You know, this is the basic of classic economy, which then develop into neoclassic economy, and now end up, neoclassic economy is the hegemonic economic theory we have. But if you go back in time, you end up understanding the political philosophy that built that. And when the Europeans came to Latin America, to Abya Yala, and understood, oh, there's so many empty land that we can use, and since we use it, it will be our own, economic theory built on the self, then it will be ours, But the thing is that the use of the land was understood in their own sense of the use of the land, And the Aboriginal people were indeed using the land, but in a very different way. I'm not saying in a more sustainable or not sustainable. I'm just saying in a different way,
Right.
And though the both understanding of the use of land encountered itself, and now we know who won, But the thing is that economic theory keep on development along the history of Western style of the Western societies, based on this political philosophy. So the mother of all our philosophies is political philosophy. So what we right now, I just told you maybe a couple of minutes ago, I told you that the quantum leap that biological science did to develop into a new science called ecology, the quantum leap we have to do in economic theory, we have to do it in the political economy theory. That's why I'm finishing writing a book, an open essay on decolonizing political economy. Why? Because we have to decolonize the building blocks of political philosophy that builds the economy. So the thing is that political philosophy is in itself self-centered, not community-based center, and not other ways. Is self-centered. So the economic system is built on the self. The political system is built on the self, and the economic system is built on that also self. The thing is that both are built on the economic theory. So after 200 or 250 years of having an hegemonic system like the one we have, which is capitalism, everything within that system is aligning with the economic logic. Schools, houses, homes, everything is aligning with the economic system because the system is econocentric, And the worst thing, the worst instrument that is aligning with the economics is the political system, because the political system is the only system we have to change things, Yeah. But as long as the only system we have to change things is working for the economic system, we will not change, we will not make decision that goes against the economics. That's why we are trapped. We are in a vicious circle that the only couple of times that I have seen that circle breaking is through violence, which is not an option for many of us, but is an option to many people. It is indeed an option to many people. The thing is that when you try to build a different system based on violence, then you will not know how this will end up.
Yeah,
that's the difference between a revolution and a change of system.
totally agree.
Like revolution and evolution.
Yeah, the revolution. Well, how many hits rolled down in the last change of system that took place in France, in Europe? How many hits? They even create a machine to cut heads, the guillotine.
Yeah,
So
I understand your point, and just to add one thing, is something, for example, the thing that you are saying, that you cited, I don't want now to turn into like a big political theoretical discussion, but
that's too boring.
yes, of course, and it's not also in the mood of the thing. But one thing that I is like a personal feeling. I don't like, for example, in the whole Marxist theory in general, is that in a way it complies with this kind of I don't think that is the change. And as you like mentioned from like the point of view of the people that don't understand the thing that you're saying, also that mindset in a way is trapped into a productivistic, merely economic system. And finally it leads to the same similar, or I don't know, naively covered like exploitation of resources. So we have to run and turn from like productivistic, merely an economic center vision to a more holistic and generative also system. But okay, that was just one little point, and I'll give the floor to Moran, and then.
Well, first of all, I agree, and I love the way you're framing this in a way that makes it something we can all wrap our heads around slowly. And it sounds to me like there's making or coming to terms with the capitalistic system, and even it's coming up for me the democratic system, and the possibility that we're not using them correctly, or if we use them differently in the meantime, can we make them work better for us? with taking into account what you said about having had those systems built on a self-centered versus starting from the larger circle of biosphere, for example, because if our Earth is not infinite resources, it is finite. There is an end, there is a maximum, there is a limit. Then if we reverse engineer back and then arrive in the end to the individual self, and then be able to go back out, if we had a more integrative and more participatory existence, I'd like to say, or lifestyle, the humility you're talking about, to me, would be almost autodeductive if we were taught early on to have that whole systems perspective. Because, for example, and I'm saying this as a question to you, also for those who might be listening and perhaps it's new, wouldn't it mean then that every self would possibly be able to take into consideration that all my actions have impact on way beyond myself, and therefore will impact me in the end? And therefore, if I hack the human system of self-centeredness and realize that it's not all about me, but it could be about me in terms of around me, then my choices might change. And maybe I would be participating in a different way. Maybe I would realize that it's not worth me doing X, Y, or Z, or saying X, Y, or Z, because in the end of that whole system thinking, my calculation would say, I'd better not. It's not my best investment. Maybe I should rather do something different, even if it's about making money. Like, if that's, if my goal is to be sustainable and I need money at the moment to do that, then couldn't we be more conscious of, or sensitive to, or wiser with how to make that money, how to be sustainable, and then be humble? I don't know.
That's a wonderful reflection you are doing here, and let me just pick up where you left, because when you, very often when I give speeches on alternative thinking or alternative way of seeing things, the people at the end put me into the concept of, you're nothing but a different communist, and I said, well, I'm sorry, but you didn't hear everything I said, because I might be considered a communist, but within that system of communism is the whole biosphere, not only human beings. It's like a broader perspective. The hegemonic system is so strong from the theoretical and symbolic perspective that it even gives us alternative. And the system give you, okay, this is an alternative way of thinking. Go that way, and this is alternative. But don't challenge what is really important. Don't challenge what is really important. So it's very, when I was in Calabria, in the University of Calabria, they were not understanding the fact that they were saying the theoretical perspective goes against the individual then. And I said, why? I mean, if you understand it like that, then it is like that. But if you read this book, you understand that individuals within this community, they first understand themselves as a part of the community, and then they are an individual, and not the other way around.
Exactly.
Then the human rights will not. If you read the history of human rights, the history of human rights are individual first, cogito ergo sum, and then start developing community or community-based human rights, it would have developed probably the other way around. Maybe first community human rights and then individual ones. I'm not saying this is right or this is wrong. It's just another way of thinking. Is when you just have to go back to the building blocks of knowledge. What is economy? Economy is a way of producing wealth and distributing wealth. So from that perspective, what is wealth to you might be very different from me. And with that conception, I see the capitalistic societies are very, very, very good at producing wealth, but very, very, very bad at distributing wealth.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's just another way of seeing things. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm wrong. I'm saying we have to be this that is inclusive. There is only, when you see political and economic theory from a decolonized perspective, 99% of books, you end up throwing them away. And there is only one thinker from Western societies that I keep on reading a lot, and is I don't have a book here, is Gramsci from Italy.
Yeah.
And why I like Gramsci, because Gramsci explained how a system becomes hegemonic, and then how you break that hegemonic. That's it, And his the critic of Gramsci was so deep to the system that he literally wrote him in a jail in Italy. And you have to read the sentence of the judge, the sentence of the judge that make him rot him in jail. He said, because I've written, it's on my open essay on economic policy. The jury says we must make this brain stop from thinking. So we have built a system that makes thinking dangerous, and that goes against us.
Yeah, thank you very much also for this. This indeed was very powerful, and I think it's also like a good day to like remind Gramsci. Just a little note of context: today in Italy is like the Liberation Day from fascism. So thank you again for these nice hints. But okay, now the discussion, yes, we didn't plan anything. So also for the listener, we didn't plan anything. So that's also, I don't know, karma, whatever you want to think. But okay, now let's also give the participants some space to ask questions and so on. We have also a little
dialogue
time.
Will make us reach to all of us. The dialogue.
Yeah, totally agree.
100%.
So if you have some question, put from Facebook into the chat here in Zoom. Feel free to ask Erick some question. So it was a very interesting, and I very like, really. I don't know if you feel the passion. So the Latin side is out. So feel free, guys, to like ask if you not agree, if you have a different point of views.
If you don't agree, I will look forward to that, for telling me why you don't agree, because if you're right, that will make my way of thinking richer. Just that,
Yeah.
What a beautiful example.
Also, one thing, don't feel shy to, I don't know, even though you did not catch the whole discussion, or if you feel like it's too, I don't know, theoretical, don't mind on that. We are here, as we did at the beginning, like we were in a, I don't know, in a dining room, and like taking some coffee, and we were with friends and so on. So I asked the guys also that are into the chat if you have some question or if you want to tell your experience.
Yes, wonderful. You can always go to my. I have a small website. I don't update it very often, but it's over there explaining my way of thinking. Is called the Mesoamerican Knowledge Lab. Is open to suggestions.
Eric, would you mind putting it in the chat and we can add it also to our Facebook feeds? That would be
Sure.
great. So does anyone who's here have a question you want to ask right now? Okay, I'm going to add something. First of all, I just want to go back to the word humble. Mathematically speaking, the fact that you said that's the most important thing, or you've twice already mentioned that word, I think that's really like the opposite side of the spectrum to ego, which is one of our human kind of characteristics that I feel we all have to come to terms with and find a healthy balance. What is a healthy ego of recognizing that yourself, ourselves are important, and at the same time also not more important than everyone else, which is kind of a human developmental stage of omnipotence, and the world revolves around me, because it's our experience that we are kind of in our bodies, in our minds, experiencing what goes on around us. It kind of goes through our processor, and it takes a long time to understand that we're a part of something larger, which I think is also another bridge between modern Western science, as you open the conversation with, and what is science and how does it come to be. But also on the financial aspect, I mean, to us, economy, when you say economy under the same or next to the word sustainable, for me, there's economical, which is money-based, and there's economical that's resource-based, and then there's
Okay, maybe
ecological. I'm not going to break down the words now, but again, back to how you define sustainability earlier, and again, for me, is sustainability the ability to sustain ourselves? But what is ourself? Is it just me or you, or is it ourselves as a collective species, or our?
I think that
Says life on Earth. I mean, anyway, earlier question, just an open-ended thought, and I saw, Domenico, that you were sharing something. So go ahead.
No, we were losing you. We had a couple of delays on the communication.
Maybe Eric, if you catch also some part, if you.
Sorry.
No, I would say that what she mentioned is really important, but you know, is also as important as being humble. Is important to not losing the desire of always being learning. You know, I remember when I came back from Italy, my library that you see on the back, it was like or 2,000 or 3,000 books, you know. Then I throw half away of them, and I start making a new one based on empirical knowledge, territorial knowledge, you know. And one of the first thing I realized, and that's the reason why I decided to write an essay on that, is that we don't have much information about that. We don't have much information about economic processes, alternative economic processes. You know, one of the first thing I realized is I've been trying to recreate economic process previous to the conquistation, to the invasion of the Europeans into the Mesoamerican land, and I realized that there's almost no information, and I have noticed a few very interesting things. For example, the gold of the Mesoamerican communities was the jade, because it's the color of nature. And it's really, really, really interesting, the kind of things you realize. For example, when the first economic theorists try to understand how Maya people work in the highlands of Guatemala, they said that's nothing new on there. It's just another cooperative that we have in Europe. And happens to be that one of the most important members of this cooperative in the Mayan way of producing wealth is nature. And that's something that we are just learning from the last 20 years, and they've been involving nature for 1,000 years. So that's just another way of thinking.
Amazing, amazing. I have some question, but I ask again the floor if they have some question. Really, don't be shy. Take the chance because I think it's a very nice chance to have Erick here. And I don't know you, but this kind of theories for me are very, very new, as also Erick explained, and enriching. So feel free to also take some questions.
Domenico, I see someone with a family name Tanaka. So it is a typical family name. Yes. So he can ask in Japanese. I can answer in Japanese.
Yes. Okay. G, if you want to make a question, feel free.
Or comment. I see also my friend Monica from Ecuador. I've learned a lot in Ecuador.
Okay. So should I speak?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So now actually, yeah, I'm so glad to involve to this wonderful program, Climate Social Forums, and I'm keep willing to contribute to these wonderful programs. I will, and looking to the other programs held by the UNFCCC, we have the many COVID-19 outbreak we facing, but I think we can overcome using the online and the networks and our passions, I think. So yeah, I think we can make it. Thanks so much.
Yeah, Tanaka-san, I think it's very important, the passion. Putting passion, changing things requires a lot of passion and patience, but again, nothing that is worth doing is easy. Passion is really important. And there's something you mentioned, Domenico, that I forgot to answer, the ICT role. I don't know if you got the chance to read the report I made to the Ibero-American Secretariat on how COVID is affecting livelihoods of indigenous people in Latin America. If you see at the end, I mentioned how indigenous younger teenagers are using ICT to help themselves. So it's really amazing. For me, that's globalization. Some instruments and methodologies that do not deny who I am, but maybe help me to be better who I am.
Yeah, I'm adding a point on that. Maybe Jean, if you want to add something.
Yeah, thanks for giving the feedback. So I'd like to ask the, Mr. Erick about the questions. So I would say, now we're doing to the Climate Social Forum program, and we try to manage it. So, but it seems like for my country, even in Japan, we are sooner or later we were going to face a lockdown. And I had some of the other Asian countries like the Philippines, Indonesia, and Myanmar, and Sri Lanka, and India. They're also going to cross to their borders due to the COVID-19 outbreak. So I like to ask the some of the countries' ambassadors and some of the countries' members cannot reach to the COP26 Glasgow or some related event Even so I became to the conference use of the country coordinator of Japan by the global affairs unit, but it seems like we facing to we cannot reach the Glasgow's main conference. So to deal with this, we also planning to continue to do the next years. But in that case, we need to think about the many. Most of the members are thinking that they can make it in a year, but for my plan is that we need to expand to the one more year. So we in the team we're going to make a gap. So I would like to ask some mistake. How can we manage it to this difference and the gap?
That's a good question because it's a nice challenge. I would say, let's try to see what one of the first activities I ask people is try to think differently. Let's review what we have been doing as the social forum for 20 years or for 15 years, and let's see how can we think differently, how can we approach differently. In the history of research, people who have done who have reached the PhD level knows that you learn more from a wonderful question that you don't answer, that a nice answer that doesn't help much, because the nice question keep on pushing you and pushing you and pushing you. The gap, in my opinion, the gap is a gap of knowledge. It's not a gap of time, it's a gap of knowledge. So I would try to look for the social forum to see what kind of instrument the social forum can develop to systematize maybe better local knowledge, and help enrich the perspective and the impact of the social forum. That's what I would say.
Yes, I had one point on that. Also, like to contextualize, Jean is also helping us in another initiative that we are running, that maybe also I tell to you. We are organizing this climate social forum. It's kind of online conference to discuss, even though there is the COVID-19, to continue discussing about climate and social. And he's part also of the team. And yeah, I think he was referring to that. But by the way, I think that the very good answer you said, a good question can let you understand more than a bad answer, we can say.
And collective knowledge is very important, as Moran says. Yes, actually, the book, the open essay I'm writing, I'm probably will publish it on my website in 2 or 3 months, maybe. Right now I have a lot of work, so I sacrificed the book. So I probably publish my book in 2 or 3 months on my website. And the idea is to give access to the community. We have a very big community of local development practitioners from Latin America, from Abya Yala, and most of them work with community currencies. And the idea is to share with them the link and let them read in depth the book and bring back to me all the comments and possibilities of enrich the book. And then after 18 months, I will probably republish a second edition with all the collective knowledge included.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you.
I don't know if we have the time for a very last question, even though we are going to close.
Someone said hello.
Sorry?
Someone said hello.
Yes, I don't know if, someone want to make like the very last question for Eric?
Would like to make a comment. I can see someone from, his name is Sakir from Pakistan. Hello.
Hello everyone. It was amazing session. I have learned a lot of new things and so many insightful things. So it's amazing. you guys discuss a lot of very critical things, so it's really help to understand some critical things, and I so appreciate, and I would like to again join this kind of conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I was going to comment, Zakir, that when you look for alternative, of course, I'm writing about alternative economies, but a lot of people said that we have a financial problem. We don't have a financial problem. We don't have an economic problem. If we have if we have a problem, it's a political problem. But the thing is that when you look for alternative financial way of thinking, Islamic finance is just beautiful alternative. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just an alternative that we should consider in order to build another financial system.
Thank you, sir.
Which is in a really, can you summarize that for people who don't know what you mean by that? What's unique about it? I'm sure you have like little bits from many aspects of many things, but yeah, go ahead.
Yes, for example, the Western style financial system is based on interest, and in the Sharia, interest is forbidden. Nevertheless, you can get a loan in Islamic countries. Nevertheless, you can get investments in Islamic countries. Nevertheless, you can get equity in Islamic countries. So how do they manage that if you are not allowed to share an interest? Answer that, and you'll have a wonderful alternative.
Thank you. This come to me with another small question, but I really ask to also give few hints. I don't want to like take too much of your time, but for you suggest alternative economic system. And what do you think about microcredit?
Microcredit is just more of the same, reaching different people, but it's more of the same. Yes. A lot of people from the economic theory criticize a lot interest, because interest is the way where if you have enough money, you are allowed, the system allows you to not do anything, not earn your living, you know. And if you don't have enough money, then you are punished and you have to go and you pay an interest for that. So a lot of people says that if you change the way money is designed, you change a lot of things. I think that might be true. We don't know that as long as we try. My way of thinking is that for example, you can put you can design money in a different way. For example, you take €100 bill and you said this bill is valid until January 2021. You put an expiration date to the money. That's another way of designing currencies. A lot of people is saying that we should try that. In my opinion, if we try that, in my opinion only, I'm not saying that I have the empirical knowledge to demonstrate that what I'm going to say is true, but in my opinion, this just will only accelerate environmental degradation, because people will be more desperate to expand. So the cycle of creating wealth through the circulation of money will be faster, you know. So alternative way of thinking, alternative economies means just trying another things. For example, the Islamic finance is just alternative thinking. I know banks. There's a bank in Sweden that they meet very often, one person, one vote, just like in a cooperative, but they meet very often, and they have a mathematical calculation according to the amount of savings they have, to learn the highest amount of money without an interest. That's another way of thinking. I'm not saying it's right, I'm not saying it's wrong, it's just another way of thinking.
Thank you.
Well, all of these angles and perspectives of looking at it is very helpful to have someone who spent the time to put it all together and cross compare and analyze. I'm really looking forward to reading your book. I wanted to mention 1.5 points before we wrap up. One is perhaps circular economy and what your opinion is about that. And in that concept of circular economy, which is, it can be local and global. Well, I'll put that aside. I wonder if we started to invest our money, okay, while we're in the capitalistic system, we're using money. If we, I look at every purchase, every time I buy something, it's an investment. It means if I believe in your tomatoes, I'll buy from you. If I believe in your technology, I buy from you. What's that?
Micropolitics of decisions. That's what you are doing.
Yes.
Michel Foucault.
Oh, okay. I would love a whole nother session about this, because my thinking is, if we're having the political system not working for this holistic system, this whole systems thinking theory that we're talking about, but in the meantime, we need a transition time, and that's awareness and education, knowledge, as you said, which must go top down and bottom up, so that we can shift away from the self-centered to we are all part of something bigger. Then with those little investments, with those choices I make, if I buy from you and you buy from Domenico and Domenico buys from Monica and Monica buys from Jean, and we keep it within this, is that something that, we can start to build out and have that resource circulating between us and have more, maybe less negative impact, more positive impact, and get the, I don't know, incorporate all these different theories, including the circular economy, where that, it starts to go between us as people who are, offering and exchanging services and I don't know, resources that we need between us, and then maybe build out a healthier system. I'm just asking.
Well, based on my experience, I would say that if there are solutions, because I don't think if there is going to be a solution, I'm not going to change the unsustainability of the capitalistic system to the unsustainability of another system. So for me, we're talking about many solutions at the local level. That's what is local. That's another discussion from another 2 or 3 programs. But the thing is, if there are solutions, those solutions are local. That's why, when they ask me, Eric, are you a consultant on local development? And I say yes, as long as it's territorial oriented focus. It's focused on the local on the local knowledge, on the local availability of resources and what kind of resources. If there are solutions, they are local. About circular economy, one thing I have to say is every theory that comes from Western societies, I see it with a lot of. I would love to review every detail of that theory. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just like to review it, And I like circular economy because it considers at a certain level. I have to stress on that. It considers at a certain level nature. But I would say that at a certain level, because we still don't know how far we have to consider nature in the political and social processes. We are just learning that, and we are learning the very hard way. But we have to still consider even more nature into economy. I don't know, but when I was in high school, they call it the Pachamama, the Mother Nature. They call it natural resources. That's a horrible way of seeing nature. And it's really, really irrespectful for some indigenous people to call Pachamama human natural resources. That's really horrible. So it's like profiting from the ashes of your of your ancestors. You know, it's really bad for them. So I do like circular economy. I work a lot on that. Actually, right now we are building financial strategy in Costa Rica for circular economy. So, but yes, I always look for the impact. And every time people come with projects to me, to the United Nations office we have here in Costa Rica, I work with here in Costa Rica, I always look, listen, your project is very beautiful, but I want to see the result. I want to see the impact. You know, if it's local, not only natural impact. What kind of do you have a gender equity policy at least on your factory? You know, it's not only political. The challenges we are facing right now are not only environmental. Of course, the environmental one are the most pressing one, but we have really strong social issues in here. I sent Domenico a song, two songs. The first one is about a social issue in Nicaragua. Is the situation in Nicaragua and in Honduras and El Salvador is really bad. The social situation over there. No wonder they are migrating in a huge amount of people to the United States. You know, this is not a solution. Of course, I know it's not, but I know it's not a solution because I've been in the United States. You know, but these people all they think the United States is what they see on TV.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with your last sentence.
Californication.
Exactly. Yeah, dears, it's been simply amazing. Really, I think that this is one of the best sustainable Sundays. I don't know if Moran can agree. Eric, sorry if I say that you are invited, I can say strongly, to the Climate Social Forum and also to the next Sustainable Summit. The Climate Social Forum was that initiative that Jean was talking about. To let you know, like last year we made like 1 week of online events on different topics, from mitigation to economy to new models after Anthropocene and so on. So really, I will appreciate a lot if we can like also think about that, because I think that the thing that you are telling to us, if they are also heard from a wider audience, can be a very nice thing.
Okay,
And
just one word, Domenico. It's my pleasure to participate on the Social Climate Forum. But every time I invest any kind of resources, my most precious resource is time, because it takes times from my family, from my little girl
sure.
and my wife. And if I'm going to invest anything on something, I have to review it first. I would love to read about what is about the Climate Social Forum. Just by the name, I love it, but I have to review it.
Sure.
As
Okay,
you should.
Moran, if you want to say some words in another way, I will prepare the closings. So for the fourth closing, and also Eric, if you have some final remarks, feel free to say.
No, I would just like to thank you, all of you, the organizer for organizing, and the participants for participate, and make my perspective richer. And I hope to be reading each other in the future and enriching from our experiences.
Thank you, and let us know about your book. We'll be glad to read that. Sol, to you.
I have some police passing by. Sorry about that. I want to say, first of all, thank you. This has been enlightening and absolutely educational. There are people beyond who is on the Zoom who are watching us right now, and more to come as this kind of ripples out. I also invite anyone who's learned anything new today or feels inspired to please share this with your networks and your WhatsApp groups, wherever you are. Local, global, local. We have a lot of transition, a lot of growth to do together, a lot of definitions and interpretations to define together. Eric, it's been an honor. Your work is already impressive on paper, but meeting you in person also humanizes your work, and it makes it really relieving to be able to ask questions and feel comfortable having our minds expanded in such a simple way. I like to say that
Again, we lost it.
It's freeze.
complex, stupid, simple, complex. And so everything is kind of complicated. Hopefully we can simplify more and more with people like you doing research like you're doing. The most important thing, and I think it goes with what you're saying, is distribution. One thing is to collect the knowledge. The next is distributing it. We are proud to be part of distributing your knowledge and the collection of knowledge that you've put together. I work with indigenous from all over the world, and I believe that our next step is to really, if we can find the respectful way to disperse their knowledge. We have so much more to learn, and so much of that is in our DNA. It will help us so much more quickly than we can even believe. And I feel that organically, that will help us to ripple out and transition into a more harmonious world together. Thank you so much for joining us on Sustainable Sundays, and looking forward to seeing you on the Climate Social Forum and then some, even maybe COP26.
Okay. Bye, guys, and then let's close with some music.
Una noche Terencio la dejó, por el día cocina, lava y plancha que no. Vende lotería, hay por Metrocentro, y todas las noches al mejor postor alquila su cuerpo, cantando conmigo. Ay, 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 y su pan